Hey, what's up everybody, Jack of Many Trades back here again with another video, and today we're going to be continuing our coverage of the WWDC 23 event. So if you guys have not already seen my short, I will leave a card up here and a link down in my description so that we can go and get caught up, see what was new at WWDC so that we don't have to waste 2 hours of your time. But before we get started, be sure to drop a like down below and give me a subscribe, as I know that about 97.5% of my viewers are not actually subscribed. So what are you guys waiting for? Go down and subscribe below and keep up to date with me and all of the content that I put here on this channel. It's a lot of fun and I like interacting with you guys, so be sure to do that. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Alright, so here we are on our main home screen. And as you can see, things are looking pretty similar to what we've seen for quite a while with our iOS 16. But there are, of course, new things with iPadOS 17, because in iPadOS 16, for some reason, Apple didn't want to give us the widgets when they gave them to us on the iPad for our lock screen, but now this year we finally catch up with the iPhone and iOS 17 with iPadOS 17. So as you can see here, we have widgets on the left hand side of the screen. So if I go here and hit customize, you'll see we have the same type of thing as we've been used to with iOS 16 for quite a while, and that is the ability to separately modify our lock screen and home screen. We can go here, edit our lock screen, so you can go here. I always like having my calendar with events and other things like that, so that way I can stay up to date on that. But you have tons of other options here if you prefer to see something else. On the left hand side here, I have my upcoming events here. I have a little calendar widget, so that way I can see what day it is, how far I am into the month, that sort of thing. I also have my batteries, so I have the 4 most recent devices being used. And of course I have the weather widget right here, which shows me the temperature, conditions, low and high for the day. So definitely a pretty nice thing to have on the iPad finally. Another thing that you'll notice is that with certain backgrounds, such as this one, where there's a very clearly defined subject, it'll take your clock and put it to the back behind your subject, so that way it looks like it has a little bit more depth to it. So that's kind of a nice feature, a little fun. And we also can, of course, make our clock thicker or thinner. You can make it match the background like I have it, or you can have it set to a specific color. Not really a ton of new stuff there, but nice to have. Again, it brings it more in line with what we've had on the iPhone for quite a while. Another thing that's kind of cool is on the topic of wallpapers and backgrounds, we have this new kaleidoscope background, which modifies itself when you lock it and unlock it. So, you know, this is our gem one. This is the blue gems. But there are a couple of other ones. So if we go here, you can see there's green, yellow, sort of a red and blue, purple, this grayish, and then there's flowers. So there's quite a few new backgrounds for you to choose from if you so choose, and you don't want to go with one of your own pictures, you can always do that, which is pretty nice. All right, so going straight to the lock screen, you'll see here, again, not a whole ton is really changed on the lock screen, but there are a couple of new things as far as widgets. Widgets are now interactive, so if you have some sort of widget like, say, a reminders widget, now you'll see that I can just go and mark off an item as completed straight from the widget. It disappears, and so that is something that's kind of cool. For certain applications, this may be useful for you, where you would want to actually have the ability to mark off things as completed throughout the day, or interact, say, turning on lights in your house or something like that. You can now do that straight from the widgets without actually opening up the apps, which is pretty cool. So inside of Spotlight, there are a couple of new things. You now have Siri suggestions, which we've had for a little while. You can show more, show less. You can also activate shortcuts straight from this page. You can also search for tags and other things like that. So if we type in dog, you'll see that we get some photos of dogs, music, other things like that. So The search has been getting a little bit more powerful in recent years, and so this year is, again, a little bit more of an addition to what we've been enjoying for quite a while. So that is pretty cool. Moving right along into one of my absolute favorite features is multitasking with Stage Manager. So this is something that is not new this year, but it is much improved, and now it's actually usable, which is really great. So if we go here into, say, GoodNotes or something like that, you'll see that I have a note open, so I can start writing away here. Now let's just say that I want to bring in Safari. I'm reading a paper right now, so we'll have that there, go into that, and then I can resize this window. And as you'll see here, this left side window is now pushed pretty close to the border here. It still can't go all the way to the border. As you'll see there, it just kind of pops back, but this is way, way, way more usable than it was last year. Last year, this feature, I loved the idea of it, but I always thought that it was kind of gimmicky because you couldn't really get rid of this sidebar here the way that you can now. And you also couldn't resize widgets very much. So this is way better. You can have pretty much full screen on this side and this side. And so let's just keep on adding some apps. So let's just go ahead and we'll add in YouTube. All right, so now we have this. We'll just resize this to a smaller window there, put it down in the bottom. Let's also take another instance of GoodNotes. So you see here we have a second instance of GoodNotes. So now I'm just going to resize that, and we'll put it down at the bottom as well. And as you can see here, what's kind of nice is that when we start getting more apps in one area, so let's just say that we bring in Finder here, and you see that you can only have really 4 apps open at the same time. Then they start closing out. They'll still remain in memory, of course, but they'll be removed from this view. So that is something to note, at least with the M1 iPad, which is what this one is. You know, if you want to have this take up the whole right side of the screen, you'll see here that I can start writing on my GoodNotes instance. If I tap on it, it brings it to the forefront here. Then I can just quickly switch over to my Finder. And, you know, I can go ahead, grab some documents, other things like that. But you also see that the GoodNotes that we had down below has been moved to the back. We can tap on it, bring it back up to the forefront, and you can see that our YouTube has also done the same type of thing. So we can touch there. So it's very nice how they've done this. They make the windows automatically move around, so that way they're always accessible to you, but they sort of move out of the way when you need them to, and they come back when you need them to. So I think this implementation of the Stage Manager is way better than it was last year, much more usable. I've actually used this for work a couple of times and really enjoyed it, so I think you will too. Inside of Notes, you'll see here that we can now have grocery lists. So you can intelligently organize items into grocery categories. There's sections, column view. So if we just go ahead and add a new reminder, we'll just call it remind. All right, now we can go here, and you'll also see that you have some suggestions based on reminders that you've done before. If we go here to our little window here, we can add some tags if we want, location, when messaging. You can flag this, you can set a priority level, add it to a specific list, add it to a subtask. You can add an image to it. If we go here to date and time, you can even get early reminders, and you can have it repeat. So there's a lot of really nice new features in Reminders. Reminders, I think, is an app that hasn't really gotten a lot of love from Apple in the past, but it's really nice to see now that they're doing a lot more to make it usable and to make it really functional for people throughout their day. So that is pretty cool to see. All right, so another thing that we have in here with regard to the iPad is the screen distance. So this can be found in screen time in your settings. If you go here, this will help to reduce the risk of myopia in children by helping them to keep their iPad at a safe distance from their eyes. So you can set this up, which is pretty nice. So that way it will alert you if you are a little bit too close to your device and should pull back. All right, so another thing that is pretty nice that they've added to Safari, in addition to what we got last year with tab groups, now you can see here I have a whole bunch of tabs for my YouTube channel. We can go here into the iPadOS 17 preview. So you can have these special favorites just for tab groups. So if you open up your tab group, you can now add favorites specifically for that will only show up when you're in that tab group. It's a pretty nice feature. I wish that they had some way of accessing these from just your regular browsing, but it's only available when you're inside of a tab group actively. But it's still a nice thing to have. Also, what's nice is that they've added, if we go here to private browsing, you now have to authenticate yourself so you can get Face ID locks for this. So you can see here you have locked private browsing, advanced tracking and fingerprint protection, and enhanced extension control. So some pretty nice stuff here. You can also turn on your iCloud private relay, which is a feature that they've had for a while. And it's not going to remember anything. So basically standard private browsing, but now there's Face ID to it. So if you are into doing private browsing, that is something new for you. Yeah, so another thing that is kind of fun is that just like with iOS 17, you now have the ability to add live photos to your wallpaper. So if you open up your iPad, you'll see some animations of your live wallpapers, which is pretty cool. You also have, of course, the current live activities, just like we've had on iPhone for a little while, especially if you had an iPhone 14 Pro Max. You're pretty used to having some of these things with Uber Eats so that we can see your order progress even when you're not in the app. So it's nice that all of that stuff is coming to the iPad. Inside of iMessage, I think one of the best things that they've been doing across the board is making the ability to go to your photos, stickers, pay, all of that stuff much easier. Now you just simply tap the plus button and you'll see that it overlays with this nice little tray here that you can then expand to go to your camera, photos, stickers, all of that stuff. You also get the same features as discussed in iOS 17, where you can catch up by swiping to reply. You can go, if you're in a group message and you haven't been active in it for a while, you can just tap and it'll scroll all the way up to the top so you can see what your last viewed messages were. You can search filters inside of messages. You can share your location pretty easily with friends and family. If anybody sends you a voice message in iMessage, you'll also get a live transcription of that so that we don't have to listen to it straight away. You can also use stickers in iMessage or really anywhere else in the OS that supports adding emojis and other things like that. So this is pretty cool. If you're in, say, GoodNotes or something like that, you can just peel stickers off from your sticker library, drop them into a note, and you can resize them, all of that stuff. That's another fun thing. And you can even create your own stickers from photos as they're showing here. You can just grab any object from a picture, add it to a sticker, and then you can use that sticker wherever you want. With FaceTime, same thing with iOS 17. You can record messages for people if they're not available to FaceTime with you right away. You can leave them a video message. You can also do reactions. Reactions are a thing that's kind of interesting because you need to have a relatively new iPad for that. So if you want to be able to do the reactions, you're going to need to have an iPad Pro 12.9 5th generation or later, iPad Pro 11th 3rd gen or later, iPad 10th generation, iPad Air 4th generation, or iPad Mini 6th generation. Unfortunately, that feature is not available to everyone, but for those of you who can take advantage of it, it's pretty fun. You can have rain, hearts, you can have confetti, fireworks, all that fun stuff. It just kind of adds a little bit of a dimension to FaceTime that wasn't there before. It makes it a little bit more fun. You also have FaceTime on Apple TV. Again, you will need to have a pretty new Apple TV to be able to take advantage of this. But if you do have that, then you can put your FaceTime calls up on the Apple TV. They've also brought health to iPad, so That's something that's kind of interesting. You can keep track of your health data, all of that stuff straight from your iPad, mental health, all of that. A really great feature that they've added is PDFs and notes. You now have a lot more features as far as filling out documents and other things like that. So if you get a form that you need to fill out, it'll automatically recognize all of the fields and you can autocomplete by just tapping. It'll type all of your name, address, all of that stuff, whatever is required into that, and you don't really have to do too much work. This is really nice because iPad didn't always have this. You used to have to sort of piece together things by creating your own text boxes, moving them over to the location, and then typing. Now it's automatically done for you, just like in Adobe or something like that. You can also link notes now, so you can collaborate on PDFs inside of Notes. With Safari, you can also share your passwords with people that you trust if you want. Safari on iPadOS 17 gets, just like with iOS 17, the ability to do autofill verification codes received in mail. So that is nice. And just like in iOS 17 and macOS Sonoma, you have more autocorrect features so that way you can type and it'll predict some of the words after what you're typing. This works a lot better after you've used it for a while. When you first start using this, it probably won't really be that helpful, but as you use it longer and longer, it'll start to learn how you type, and then it'll be a little bit more useful. I still don't know that it's on the level of Google's implementation in Gmail, but it's definitely a pretty nice feature to have built straight into iPadOS. So another thing that you can do with iPadOS 17 that you couldn't before is take a monitor like the Apple Studio display here, connect it to your iPad as an external monitor, and on a FaceTime call, you can use the camera from that device. So that is something that's pretty nice to have. Also, now Siri can be activated just by saying Siri. You don't have to go and say, "Hey Siri," anymore. So that is just another thing that's kind of nice to do. And when you're in conversation with her, you don't have to keep saying the trigger word over and over and over again. You can just keep talking, which is pretty cool. Something that you'll have to get used to, but it is nice if you do happen to use Siri often. There's also some new features coming to AirPlay. So AirPlay in hotels is a new feature that Apple has been touting. That is going to be coming a little bit later in the year when the full release is out. It'll probably be around, I don't know, November, December, or early next year that it'll really fully release, but definitely something nice to have. AirPods, as with iOS 17, when AirPods are updated, you'll be able to have sort of a more dynamic noise canceling experience where if you have it out and about and you're just listening to music, podcasts, or whatever, and then you start talking, it'll automatically turn the noise canceling off, and then when you finish, it'll turn it back on. That is not really something that I've been able to check out straight away because they don't have the update out yet for AirPods, but when they do, I'll be sure to let you guys know what I think of it. But yeah, so if you guys are interested in this right now, you can get into iPadOS 17 if you have a Apple developer account. If you don't have an Apple developer account yet though, don't worry. You can get the public beta next month, and so that is something that's pretty cool if you are into that. Just so that way you guys know, for iPadOS 17, these are the compatibility options. So you need to have at least an iPad Pro 2nd generation, iPad Air 3rd generation, iPad 6th generation, or iPad mini 5th generation to take advantage of all of these new features. And if you don't want to get into the public betas or the developer betas, as you know, they're still working out bugs, honestly, this has been a really great release so far. Not too many bugs at all, but there are always, of course, little things that happen from time to time. If you don't want to deal with all of that, you can just, of course, wait to the public release, which is going to be probably around September. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely make sure to drop a like down below if you didn't already, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I would love to have you guys as a part of my channel, as a part of the subscriber family. So if you guys have done that, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.